Hello, VC music lovers, record buyers. I'm Curtis, and I'm here to show you some records. I'm probably gonna call this series "The Bag Is Full" or "What's in My Bag" or something, but this is my record bag. And those are my cats. If you hear any meowing or movement or anything, we just got a kitten, and they've been playing a whole bunch, which is good, but they're a little rough. But anyway, this is my record bag. I use this for my purchases that I'm going to bring back to my main collection, which is at my parents' place currently. I have most of my records there because I had a flooding situation. Nothing got damaged, thankfully, but I did have to allocate everything. So this is what I'm going to be bringing back. And I'm getting a new place in September, so I'll be able to show you my collection and some of my favorites and have everything together, and I'll be able to play records again. I miss it, that's for sure. But we'll get into the bag. There's a lot to get into, so let's go. All right, we're starting strong. OJC, Waltz for Debbie, the Levens Trio. I'm sure you've heard about it. You most likely have it. This is the new one in the OJC series. Mastered by Kevin Gray at RTI, 180 gram. I have not had a chance to play it. Like I said, I don't know if my record player up here. Hey, you guys want to stop fighting? But I've heard only really good things about it, and I really have no complaints about the packaging or the presentation. Got your lo-fi style sleeve. It is a perfectly pressed record. My only complaint with the OJC series is the stupid wrap around obies. I hate these with a passion. If you're gonna make an obie, just put the seal at the top and the bottom, and it kind of boggles my mind. Like, is it that much more expensive to just make a proper obie? That I don't know. I have the Workin' in the OJC series as well, and my girlfriend actually crumpled up. It's also construction too, so if you hear construction noises, that is that. My girlfriend crumpled up the OJC wraparound, and at first I was like, no, like, don't do that. But then I was kind of like, you know what? I actually don't care at all. So I'll keep this one because I have it, but I actually have a desk drawer full of wraparound because I just don't prefer to keep them in the sleeves because they're annoying. But Waltz for Debbie, Bill Evans, OJC. Next up, Stanley Cowell Trio, Illusion Suite. This is a big one for me. There's a great record store in Ottawa called the Record Center, and they have a second site that they'll post some of the like warehouse finds, and this was one of them. I've never seen this before. Definitely one of the rarer ECM records, but it still goes for a fair price, unlike Jewel in the Lotus and titles like that. But super stoked to find this. I have a couple ECM titles to show you. But when I was first getting into jazz a couple years ago, Derek Higgins, shout out Derek, was a big influence on me, and this was kind of like more my speed. Like, ironically, Waltz for Debbie and kind of stuff that's kind of a little slower, chiller, like bebop stuff really like off-put me. Like, that kind of wasn't the jazz that I was into, but kind of Stanley Cowell ECM, things with like a little more meat and potatoes on them were kind of more my groove. But the first track, May Moon, definitely butchered it, but that's the one for me. Stanley Cowell on piano, Stanley Clarke on bass, Jimmy Hops on drums. It's a killer record. Definitely recommend picking it up. ECM records can still be had for quite cheap, so I'm just waiting for the day when they skyrocket, but I hope they don't. Here we go. Timeless, John Abercrombie, Jan Hamber, Jack DeJohnette. This is one I was actually not familiar with before purchasing. I gave it a listen, of course, but again, the Record Center, they were doing an ECM day where they were dropping a bunch of ECM stuff, and I did some research on some of the more notable titles, and everyone talked about this one, and I can see why. It's a beautiful record. I am Usually not much of a, see a little scuff there. I'm usually not much of a guitar-based guy. You know, I used to play guitar and used to be my main jam, but a lot of the times it's just kind of not for me. But John Abercrombie and like Grant Green, they kind of hit that sweet spot for me. But this is a great record, and I love the artwork on it very much. And yeah, got it for like $15, so you know, it's some cheap heat. Cheap heat. This was also a big one for me. Donny Hathaway, Extensions of a Man. Again, also in Ottawa, there's a great flea market called 613 Flea. Happens in Lansdowne. There's a stand there. I believe his name's Monster Records, but I've only been 2 times, but he has some really good stuff. I got Bongo Fury by Frank Zappa and Captain Beefheart, and Donny Hathaway, Extensions of a Man was chilling there. I've never seen this before, and it was a great find. I actually picked it out, and he immediately came up and he's like, "Yo, that's a rare record." And I was like, "I know, man. I've never seen it before." But I don't know his name, but he's really nice. I love a good conversation amongst record buyers. I think it's really special, and it's an easy thing to talk about. This is just in fantastic condition. Love, Love, Love is the one for me. I found it through the producer Knowledge. He has a remix series featuring Music Soulstar, and Music Soulstar covered it, and then Knowledge remixed it. And I always thought it was a Music Soulstar song, but then I found out it was Donny Hathaway. And yeah, Donny Hathaway, Extensions of a Man. Extension of a Man. There's a little warp on the spine here, but it doesn't affect the disc at all. In fact, it's in quite exquisite condition. Don Cherry, Where is Brooklyn? Blue Note Classic Series, run this way. Blue Note Classic Series is also something I am so extremely fortunate for. I'm definitely more of a tone poet guy, as everyone is. And I think this should have been a tone poet. I mean, I'm not super familiar with like the history of this record, but I feel like it would have fit the tone poet series a little more. But this is just a jam and a half. I discovered this one pretty recently, also from the fine man Derek Higgins. But what really piqued my interest on this was Pharoah Sanders is on sax, and the song, was it There's the Bomb or Where is the Bomb? There's the Bomb is so cool. Free jazz kind of took me a minute because I feel like on some records it's hard for me. Like it's a workout, give or take. You know, when people are messing around, they're finding their groove, and then once they get in it, it's very rewarding. But I find this record's pretty fluid. Like I don't find they're messing too much. I find it's pretty smooth sailing. But There's the Bomb is so cool when they go back and forth at the beginning from the left and right. I'm like, oh my god, like it's like they're talking to each other, but they're like speaking just beautiful language. This is a fantastic album. It's great for cleaning the house. I highly recommend. But I'm very grateful for the Blue Note Classic series. I got this for $20 used, and they pressed a bunch of them. Nice heavy vinyl, all analog, Kevin Gray. Like, come on, like you can't. There's nothing to be upset about with these. Sure, a nicer sleeve would have been better, but it would have made the cost go up, and the sound is all that matters. We got another ECM banger here, Belonging. Is it a Keith Jarrett record? Yes, all composed by Keith Jarrett. This is one I was looking for a very long time. This was probably the first ECM title that I was into and loved with a passion. And again, it's kind of in the soft, like, modal plane, but it had a little more going for it. Maybe it's the drums that off-putted me. The bomb there, but this is just a beautiful record. Blossom is amazing. But again, I got this for $10 for some beautiful music. Alright, I think I'll do these next two together. We got Bags and Train and Change of the Century by Ornette Coleman. These are two jazz records that I was not familiar with. I do blind buy a lot. I think if you know your stuff and kind of know what you're into and you see records for cheap, it's good to buy in advance, because these in particular were so cheap. These are about 15 a piece. These are a late 70s, 75 reissue that Atlantic did, and these are, I have not heard them yet, but presentation-wise, these are amazing. Got a great print there, as you can see. It's just beautiful, and it's tip-on as well too, which is it's not going to focus because my face is there, but I was like, okay, like I thought these were, I knew they weren't original, like a tell, but just, well, there was something a little special here. That's your Atlantic group. Like I said, I've not had a chance to listen to these yet, but in theory, they should be all analog, nice tip-on jackets for cheap. That's what I'm all about. I actually put Change of the Century on the car ride home. I know this is before The Sound of Jazz to Come or The Shape of Jazz to Come. I always forget what it is. But Ornette Coleman is one of those guys I have not listened to yet, aside from this record. And I just know I'm going to fall in love with him. The way he plays was so different, and the way he was criticized, and the way he was just... That's my kind of jazz. Especially getting into people like Pharoah Sanders are some of my favorites for sure. But when I first put this on, it was Una Muy Bonita. I accidentally had it on shuffle. That was the first one that came on, and I was like, okay, like, weird first pick of an album. It was a very weird experience, but when you put it on, you have Ramblin' first. I'm like, okay, now we're getting into it. And then Bags and Train, Milt Jackson and John Coltrane, same thing. Great reissue, 75, tip-on sleeve. This I know from the Anthony Fantano "What's in My Bag" video. Also really nice, great like Sunday morning breakfast record. Who was on? Yeah, it's Milt Jackson on Vibraharp. Is that what it is? I thought it was like a vibraphone. Vibraphone. I guess it's close. But this is really nice. And again, it was so cheap. It was really hard to pass up on. I do find, give or take, a lot of jazz in Southern Ontario is quite easy. It's not easy to acquire because I find it's more sparse. But when you find it, it's cheap, and there's a lot of leftovers. That cat sneezing. You okay, buddy? I find a lot of the record buyers here are very like classic rock oriented and metal oriented. Those are the records that go for the big bucks, and those are the records that people want and that sell out. Soul sometimes, blues very much, but I find there's a lot of jazz that hangs around for me. I knew that was gonna happen. Alright, we're back in. The cats knocked over the camera. I took a little video of what they're doing, but they've calmed down, hopefully. George Duke, Faces in Reflection. I love that cover so much. There's a great little blurb on the back here, too, about kind of the vibe in the studio on the day they recorded this one. This was the first George Duke record that I was into. I found out about it via Thundercat when he was on Mike D of the Beastie Boys radio show, The Echo Chamber. Hey, chill, hey. But yes, I found out about this Mike D on Thundercat on Mike D's radio show. I don't know what track he played. The episode's fantastic. You learn all about Thundercat's history. I didn't know he played for Suicidal Tendencies, which is so cool. But he put on a track from Faces in Reflection, and everything changed because still am a big Thundercat fan, but I was like, oh, like that's where you got your sound from, was George Duke. Not that he copies them or anything, but there's definitely a huge influence, and I think it's just the familiarity, like their voices are so similar. Because I mean, George Duke played keys, Thundercat plays bass, but they're very similar, and they pair great together. It's a shame that you guys stop. It's a shame that George Duke passed away. I don't know if they ever played together, but this is a dope one. This is the MPS reissue. It's all analog. I've never been able to find an original because I think it's because they didn't do a Canadian pressing, so it's a little harder to come across. But my George Duke collection's pretty much complete. I'd still like an original. ELO, a New World Record. This is one of those ones for me. I've been waiting a long time to get a copy, primarily because I don't see it, and because when I do see it, it would go for a little too much money. Like, not that I don't love this record, like $15, but I know and I knew I could grab it for cheaper. Got this for $5, which was the correct price in my books. But my first year when I moved away to college, this was a big record for me. It's one of those ones that when I listen to it, it takes me back to that time. In particular, I can still picture my house, my apartment I lived in London, Ontario. I was eating veggie burgers. I remember the shower very specifically, but it was Telephone Line, Mission, and Shangri-La. Just those ones just really did it for me. It was right when I first started smoking weed too, and this was like the music I listened to when I smoked. Like ELO, like this isn't quite yacht rock. Like this is like Beatles space rock, but like yacht rock, ELO vibe. Early Prince was kind of like the vibe I was on, like the really sensual 70s music was like the jam for me, and I still think it's some of the best music to listen to stoned. But this is a killer record, and those 3 songs I highlighted are some of my favorites of all time. Keeping it moving, we're about halfway here. Thanks for tagging along. William S. Fisher Circles. This is a rare one. I don't have any good sleeves to put it in. This was the only polyline that I had left. I'm not going to take it out just because it's sealed pretty tight. Nice embryo label, which I found out was a Herbie Mann's label. This William S. Fisher was a session player, I believe, and they let him do an album. But this is rare, and I don't know how the hell I knew about it. I possibly Derek Higgins, possibly I thought it was a sample or something, but I couldn't find any records of it. But I knew about it, and I saw someone on Facebook Marketplace posted it for $20. So suffice to say, I swooped in pretty quickly on this one, and super thrilled to have it. This is one of those rare groove ones, and it's pretty tight. Like, I'm not really into this style much nowadays. Like, it's very. This is gonna come off wrong. It's very Jimi Hendrix, but I love Jimi Hendrix. I still bump Jimmy, but kind of that wave, that bluesy rocky, I'm not really into much nowadays. But this is great. I really enjoy this. And yeah, the embryo label. I have another one here too that I'll show you. There's another record that I really want on the embryo label. I can't pronounce his name. Moss Clove. I'll put a little picture of the record. Infinite Space. Oh my God, such a fantastic record. So I got a couple embryo titles I'm trying to get my hands on, and now I know. I'll see if I have it in here. Okay, it's on the side here. Stone Flute by Herbie Mann, also an embryo. Got this in a small Ontario town. The vintage stores in all your little small towns around you guys got to go check out, like, some amazing deals on records. I find this record's like decently rare, especially like a clean copy. But again, it's kind of like ECM. Herbie Mann records go for quite cheap because it's Herbie Mann and people don't like the flute. But this one's really cool because it's kind of his like follow up to In a Silent Way. It's very atmospheric. It's very meditative. It's very nice, and it's got Roy Ayers on it, on the vibes, which that's the main reason why I bought this record, was for Roy Ayers. Sonny Sharlock plays guitar, Ron Carter on bass. It's kick-ass. It's awesome. Highly recommend it. There's some cool embryo titles for you. This is probably the best out of the bunch here. Black Unity Pharoah Sanders on Impulse, 1972. This is probably my favorite Pharoah Sanders record. Deaf, Dumb, and Blind is definitely up there too. I got into Pharoah Sanders because of the Acoustic Sound series. They did Karma. So Karma was the first Pharoah Sanders record that I had, and it's pretty good. I find that Leon Thomas is a little bit too much for me on that one. I like him more on like Jewels of Thought or Jewel of Thought. But when I first heard Black Unity, I was like, oh, this is what we're talking about. Just 30 minutes of intense, beautiful, lots of percussion, free jazz, spiritual jazz. It's beautiful. Stanley Clarke plays on this one. Who else is on this one? Stanley Clarke, Norman Connors, Joseph Bronner, and Lawrence Killian, and Pharoah Sanders, of course. But yeah, this is so kick-ass. I had the Verve by Request pre-ordered, the fancy Third Man edition, because I wanted a nice sleeve. I reached out to Third Man to try and get some sourcing information. They basically said Verve sends them the plates, and that's about it. Reached out to Verve, they didn't reply to my email. And then I found this in Cops Records in Oshawa, just chilling on the wall. I just finished a DJing gig for a wedding, so I knew I had to give myself a little treat. But this is one of those records that when I hold it, I kind of just can't believe that I own it, to be honest. The last record that made me do that was Smashing Pumpkins' Siamese Dream. Just kind of in disbelief that I own this one. I also pre-ordered the Deaf, Dumb, and Blind reissue by Vinyl Me Please, because Pharoah Sanders records are hard to come by and they're expensive, and sometimes they're not the cleanest, and I got that guy for about $50, so yeah, I only really have Themby to get them by, and I saw that David Bryan's label is doing the reissue of the self-titled Pharoah. It's not AAA though, but I doubt I'll have an original in my lifetime. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Couple more here. Secret Life by Fred Again and Brian Eno. This was probably my most anticipated album of the year. I love the spot gloss on this. It's really pretty. When I first heard it, I didn't really like it, to be honest. The vocal samples used by Fred Again are very interesting to me. On this one in particular, they were, I don't know really how to word this best, they were on the verge of being cringe. Like, they just were on the verge of being like overly emotional, didn't really connect with me. But one morning I was doing a puzzle, and I put this on, and it was awesome. I think it's kind of like the trick with ambient music. You can't pay too much mind to it. I think you gotta kind of let it do its thing in the background, and then it kind of sneaks up on you, and then you catch some beautiful moments. And I find that's how this operates. And then then I listen to Evening Star right afterwards, and they're perfect together. But I think Fred Again's cool. I mean, was he a Nepo baby? I think that's pretty accurate, but he's known Brian Eno for a long time. And I think they just work together, and this is like the first Eno release of his later discography that I really enjoy. So it's a win for me. Also, the thank you section is quite cool on this. They thanked Lef Golbeck, which is really cool. Didn't know that they knew each other. Justin Vernon, Leonard Cohen, John Prine. Yeah, the Lef Volbeck one is really cool to me. He's a Canadian singer-songwriter. I was really into him in high school. He has great songs, Into the Ether. I can't think of the other one that I really enjoy. It was the singles for his album with Into the Ether, with the purplish cover on it. But he's great. He's awesome. All right, I got two more for you. This was a great long time coming find. Weed Seed by Glover Washington Jr. This was my first experience with Lauren's Dance. I did not know it was written by Grover Washington Jr. until lately, but that's what makes me feel better about enjoying this version more than the original that came out. I know the original is like a touch point for kind of that era of jazz and sampling, and it's a great version, but I prefer it a little faster. I like it with a little more oomph and a little more groove. But that's kind of the only joint I really like on this one. But got it for cheap. I've never seen it around. It's never in the Grover Washington Jr. section. And I got one more for you. We're gonna end on a high note, figuratively and literally. I think they hit some pretty high notes. I don't think I could get up there. Bee Gees' Greatest, son. What you know about this? Probably a lot. Bee Gees, pretty big group, but I've been looking for this for a long time. I didn't know they actually did a vinyl pressing. It's got a great etching there. I don't know if you can see it. But anyway, I first got this album at Value Village, double CD for a couple bucks with my homeboy Adam. Come with these little BG inner sleeves here. But it will be in your local Value Village. You can check it out or you can stream it. But we kind of bought it as a little bit of a joke. We were like, yeah, Bee Gees. Like, I like Bee Gees, you know, but we put it on and listened to it on the way home, and every single song on here is amazing. This is that like primo like smoke music I'm talking about. Like, How Deep Is Your Love, More Than a Woman, Too Much Heaven. Just amazing, beautiful, cheesy, overproduced, amazing tracks. And yeah, you got these really corny labels here as well too. But yeah, those are all the records. Like I said, I'm gonna be making some more videos, and yeah, thanks for watching if you're still here, and yeah, be well.